But I think the biggest problem I'm having now is, and I know this is an experience thing, is understanding my board strength in comparison to the lobby and stability, and pushing for 9 at a comfortable rate. And like this is something I've seen myself do, is like I'll roll down, I'll have like 70 gold, I'll be level 8, and I'll roll down, and it'll just be like a really bad habit I have where I'll still roll that extra 20 gold to hit like a Rise 2, for example. But I know I'm stable because like I have Rakan 2, I have a Tarek 2, I have a Tom Kench 2. So you know what I mean? Like I know I'm pretty stable, but it'll still be that habit, like just full rolling to hit a Rise 2 when there's really no point. And then, that makes, going to 9 even harder because I was going to most likely win streak regardless. And then I'll end up like going 9 on like 5-3 at a wrong interval. And then it really messes up with my econ because then I can't roll for charm, and then I probably lose a placement or two because I'm like playing weakest charm for stage 5. And I think that's where my biggest problem is lying now.
Would you, in today's session, like to kind of attempt a deep dive at that? Do you have a game you want to go over? You want to just go over questions? Just trying to get a big picture overview of how you would want to approach this session, because we could definitely dive in deep into that specific topic if that's what you really want to go into, or if there are multiple topics you want to cover.
No, I think that's the biggest one I want to cover because that's what's like super apparent to me when I play. Like that's when I really start looking at it. I'm like, oh hey, I'm just wasting money. I'm just rolling wrong. I'm not really understanding, how good my board is right now, and that is like the biggest problem I'm having. Like if I look at all my games, that I've lost recently, it's because of that.
Okay.
It was just because of my I just played the late game so bad. And is that like is this something that like you can help me with more in terms of understanding? I know we talked about the thresholds of, hey, if you're lower than 30, you kind of need to donkey a little bit, and if you're higher than 70, you can just skip level 8 and just kind of greed out the entirety of stage 4 and whatnot. But I think I'm not doing the in between properly. What if I'm in between those two?
Yeah, we could definitely dive into this. There's actually a number of ways that I've approached this topic, and it's for sure a very complex topic and one that I still even struggle with. But I can at least share some of the approaches I've taken to try to improve it. So at the high level, what comes to mind, and do you happen to have any VODs of like examples that you find yourself in that we can go over, or we can just go over it at a high level and maybe even look at like some other top player VODs?
I was watching. There is one as an example that I was watching where I was like kind of like looking at it. It was I think it was when it was a recent like Tacticians Cup. I was watching like Soju play that day one. I think there was like the game where he went. It was let him cook, and he kind of went 8th. I think that would be like a good one to look, like that point of where his like level stage 4 roll down was. I think that might have been it.
Okay, we can definitely go into that one.
Because I was looking at that one even, and I was like, damn, I wouldn't have played it much differently myself if I was opting to lose streak. Not to lose streak. I mean, like play like that, but I feel like there's certain conditions that like I have to be fulfilling. On my roll down.
So before we even dive into that game, I want to kind of share with you one approach I take just at a high level to see if this is a pattern I'm doing too much or too little. Let me share my my screen with you, and then you could pull up that VOD and we can go over that after I kind of share this.
Yeah, of course. Because it's weird too, right? Because I think another thing I do that's so terrible as well, it's such a bad thing, is that when I'm rolling down, and I see a lot of players do it too, I'm not holding any units on my roll down. Like I played like today was the perfect another example where I said I'm gonna play Rise. I didn't commit items,
Mm-hmm.
and I rolled past 8 Callistas. I'm pretty sure,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I
So
didn't commit to the Seraphs just because of that as well. I was like, I have Shiv Seraphs, and I was like, I'm not gonna commit to slamming it. I'll just greet the items. Like I'll lose 8-10 HP for that, whatever. And it's crazy. I just got so locked in on Rise. Like I literally rolled past 8 Callistas
mm-hmm.
when I probably could have just like thrown in like a 3 multi striker. Like even without like even 3 fairy and maybe like survived off of that too. And like those are just some bad habits that I find myself doing too. It's like I'm trying to play as flex as possible, but I'm not valuing my like backup comp at all.
Yeah. So that topic is also very complex. I found that in this set specifically, it's hard to play flexibly across items. So my interpretation of this set is that items really lock you in. And so if you want to flex between, let's say, Rise and Callista, the common item that bridges them is really Rageblade, but Rageblade is not even like a great Rise item. I think it's actually positive Delta on Rise, or at best like kind
Yeah,
of neutral.
it's complete guard and scholars.
Yeah. Whereas, for example, Rageblade does let you flex between Callista and Jinx, or if you high roll a Smolder on your 8 roll down, like that is an option to flex. But like, let's say you have Archangel Slam and you're kind of directed towards Rise. Like, yes, you can go towards like a Karma Warriors angle, but like that's just not as strong, and so you're kind of locked into Rise if you're playing Archangel. Or you just like high roll a Zerath and like you have a duplicator or something. But I found that in this set specifically, the flexible play is really like what direction you choose. So not saying like, oh, I'm gonna play Rise like 2020 or I'm gonna play Callista 2020. Like the flexibility is more like choosing your direction early in the game as opposed to being really flexible in stage 4.
So you're
Because
saying like stage 2, I'm as flexible as possible, but stage 3 is just locked in. I'm committed.
that's the ideal situation, because I've found, and I posted a coaching video about this, of me being coached where I was like flexing between Rise and Callista a
Yeah,
little
I
bit too
remember that
much.
one. Yeah.
And what I found is when I do that, I'm bleeding so much HP in stage 2 and 3 because I don't have the item slam. I'm not preserving HP. And so by the time I'm actually able to hit my board in stage 4, I'm at like
Yeah,
under
20.
30 HP. And yeah, even if I hit my board, there's someone in the lobby that's high rolling like a Smolder 2 on like at the end of stage 4, or hit a Briar 2 or something,
And you
and
just
I
get
still get
taxed.
knocked out. Like all it takes is for one dirty high roller to like get you matched up once or twice and you're knocked out even if you hit your board.
But that's
Uh,
another problem too, because like um you kind of have to commit to the loss streak at that point, right? If you're gonna go for like a big roll down on level 8.
so usually if you want to go for a big roll down level 8, I found that loss streaking, the only comp that is really viable in, I found, is Callista, because Callista you can actually stabilize on level 8. Like a full, actually in many situations, even a Callista 1 with a Rakan 1, if you have hit the whole board and you have
Yeah,
Abyss items,
yeah.
like you can actually oftentimes stabilize.
But it's the
Whereas
same thing. It's Rice too, no?
if you hit Rise 2, a lot of times Rise 1 is not going to stabilize. Whereas Callista 1, Rakan 1 can, not
Okay.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if you hit your Rise 2 and your Tark 2, like that'll stabilize. Just like if you hit your Rakan 2 and your Callista 2, that'll usually stabilize. Um, but usually Callista 2, Rakan 2 will take out your Rise 2, Tark 2. So like as far as 4 costs, like if you hit the board, Callista usually will stabilize more, and Callista will typically only lose to uh, comps that go 9 and hit like the 5 cost 2 stars.
Yeah, I think the only stage 4 board that you probably lose to guaranteed is like learning to spell Soraka. Like capped out.
Yeah, yeah. So Those 3 cost 3 stars you'll lose to as well if they hit ahead of tempo. So, or learning to spell. So also,
Really, I feel like the Jinx one is actually like doable because like she just can't get through that Rakan. As long as she doesn't get a reset, you kind of win it.
Yeah, a lot of times that'll depend on augment difference. Like how much did you get econ augments to be able to hit your board as opposed to having combat augments? And then also itemization. But the reason it's hard to just pure lose streak is, again, like all it takes is for someone to hit their 3-star Jinx, Wukong, or Vex Vagar. Or if you see somebody in the lobby with learning to spell Soraka, you probably don't want to be lose streaking, because even if you hit your board, you're gonna probably get knocked out.
So I feel like I need to, like, this might seem a bit redundant for me to like ask this again, because I'm pretty sure you answered it before, but just for clarity. So I'm loading into a game, right? And this is like for general, right? Like I'm taking general augments as well, right? This is not goal specific. I'll say that I took maybe a combat augment, right? That was the only thing I was able to get. I know I'm not winning.
Okay.
I am able to slam some items. Like I can slam a Rage Blade, I can slam my gargoyles. I do have one good slammable item that like will guarantee me to like play a certain comp. Shiv, for example, like it'll lock me into playing something, right? I might slam, like of course, like 2-1, I'll see what the board is. Maybe I can kill one, I'll slam a Shiv. But for that entirety of stage 2, am I slamming items? Knowing that I can't win streak no matter what I do.
So
is it worth the risk is what I mean for losing my lose streak later on in stage 2?
So if that is your intent, is to lose streak, ideally you would not be picking a combat augment at 2-1.
No, what I mean is that's the only choice I have. Like I just rolled like complete, like no gold augments. Is what I meant. Sorry.
So I would say that's lobby specific, and that's where scouting becomes really important.
Because I know, look at my games, like that didn't happen to me. There was always some way I was able to get like a gold one, but like that game I went fourth, I just opened like Scholar Crest, and that was like the only thing, like I hit.
Yeah. So in that situation, there are a few factors at play. One is how soon might you be able to get strong? So let's say you were close to like a Zoe 2, for example. You have a Zoe pair. In that situation, you could be more likely to slam, because we've talked about a 3 loss in stage 2 followed by a 2 win is the same amount of gold as a 5 loss. Right? Yeah. So you would actually prefer the 3 loss followed by the 2 win than the pure 5 loss, because you just have more HP.
Yep.
So part of it depends on how close are you to actually being able to start winning. Number 2 is if you are slamming. Well, in this specific game, you're going to go Scholar, so you might as well slam to just preserve HP. Unless you are contested. If you are contested and someone else has a gold, like let's say this epic person, this is the only other econ. Let's say this person had Slam or Archangel, and you're going to go head to head with them to be contesting Rise later in the game. And let's say they're trying to also lose streak. That could be a scenario where it's like, okay, it's not worth slamming to really, because you need to make sure you're going to have enough gold. But if you're not contested, so in this game you were, because you knew.
Yeah, there's only one person playing Portal.
Part of it is like, in this type of situation where you're contested, I would always be constantly scouting their board to see how much gold they have relative to me, and just at least making sure you are on par or slightly
ahead. That game I was very confident, because like he was like level 6 at like 4-1. I don't know what the hell happened to him that game. So I knew I wasn't going to get contested. But on my roll down that game, I was super unlucky because I hit no Tariks. And then I just bled out. I didn't realize how important Tarik is.
Yeah, for
And
scholar boards, I was actually just watching a VOD of Dish Soap this morning. For scholar boards, the front line is extremely important.
yeah, and
Because the whole way that the trait works is you just need time for
yep,
your scholars to generate mana, and then
yeah,
that's where all the damage comes from.
100%.
It's kind of like what was it? The mana generation invokers from last set.
Yeah,
Like if you just have a really strong front line, the mana generation is the thing that will outscale your opponent's board. And so
yeah,
it oftentimes relies on frontline having good solid 2-star front lines with well itemized is arguably more important than having a ton of items in your backline.
yeah, 100%. And like that
And
game was just one of
especially
those
because you
games.
get more items with Milio.
Yeah, it was just one of those games where I just didn't hit. It was just unlucky. Like I think he only had one Tarik, and I saw no Tariks, and there was no one playing Tarik in the entire lobby.
Yeah, so
It's
sometimes
just
that
one of
happens.
those.
And so that's also a scenario where being aware of the Arcana variant can be useful since you did hit the TK. How familiar are you with the Arcana variant of Scholar?
I was supposed to drop one of them and play Rumble, right?
So it would just be like trying to throw in as many Arcana units. So it's getting Hecarim in.
Because I felt like Rumble was the keyest part for me to like start benefiting from the Tom Kench, because he would have given me Vanguard and Sugarcraft.
Yeah, so you could get more there, though I want to say that just getting more Arcana in will give you more HP than
like 4 Arcana?
getting more traits in. Yeah.
How would I so I'll just go 4 Scholar, essentially, right? Not even play 6 Scholar?
4 Scholar and Arcana. And I think
because no, Scholar no, you're right. Scholar Zerath has a really high win rate, right?
yeah.
I think so, from what I checked a while ago.
And if you're not sure about the variations, like I think no, they don't have this here.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna start looking at that a little more too, because it's really cool that they have more variations to it. I was looking for the Vanguard Mage one the other day.
So the stats here aren't great. Oh, you're right. It is Rumble, yeah. But did you get to 9 in that game?
Yeah. I was 9.
Yeah.
It was just unlucky. I just could not hit anything.
Yeah. So at 9, it'd be Rumble and Hecarim. Well, this is.
I misplayed that game then, because I'm pretty sure I had a Hecarim too and I sold it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I sold it to just play Diana and roll for Charm. Like, I'm pretty sure I could have played the version you were talking about. Like, I definitely had was definitely right. I just did not know about it.
Yeah. So that makes a big difference. It's just being aware of the variance and having more outs, like you're saying, which isn't necessarily that you're flexing so much between Rise and Callista, let's say, but you're flexing between, at least for the boards for Rise, the different variants that they might have. So
yeah.
that degree of like kind of, I don't know, more micro flexibility as opposed to like really macro flexibility can be useful.
Yeah. Like the win con is the same. It's just the units are just a little different.
Exactly. And you can even abstract that further to just say you need a front line. And if for some reason you're just missing on literally everything, like Taric and Tom Kench, in the worst case, you could even argue that it's worth just holding, like, let's say you just randomly hit a Nasus 2, or you could have hit a Nasus 2 on your roll down, but you weren't holding Nasus. Like, because for Scholars, the front line is just arguably the most important thing. If you just hit a random Nasus 2, like, and then you have
Nico Nasus.
Exactly, because Nico already connects with Zoe anyway, so that would be some degree of quote flex that you could do as opposed to who your main carry is.
And that's like the biggest problem I think I'm having too, is like I said, like I do feel like I've cleaned up like my stage 2 and 3 as much as I can for now, but I just feel like my stage 4 roll downs are just so bad now, because the whole reason why I tried to re-rank back to Masters again was to practice my my roll downs on 4-1 and 4-2. And like I do feel like I've gotten a lot better at it. I still think like I do need to work on my late game so much more, because That's like the best part of the game right now, right? Like that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think I'm playing it too well
Well,
at
so
all.
I think that's one of the hardest parts. Though you could arguably say that how you set up your stage 2 has a bigger impact than your stage 4.
I mean, in a way, yeah, but I do feel like my skill expression on stage 2 is the lowest it can be right now in like this playstyle of TFT.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know before it was like a lot more complex, right? Because like you would get 3 gold with a 5 win, 5 losses. There's so much more emphasis on it. There's a lot more punishing. But I do feel like now that knowledge going into stage 4 and like having that micro effects play that you were talking about and like optimizing your board
Mm-hmm.
is probably what gives the best LP, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's my weakest part.
Okay. Yeah. So
I don't know if I'm wrong about what I just said.
yeah, we can definitely dive into that more. One example I want to also give on like kind of this topic of stage 4 roll down and being a little bit more flexible is like,
Oh,
like
that game? Dude, this game was the worst game of my life. I actually just left. I just FF'd. I actually just FF'd.
yeah. So obviously, you know, this is awkward.
But all my augments were just terrible. Like because I was like on 3-2. I was like, okay, well, I'll just pick the best augment I can. And Spellblades was the best augment I could take, and I already had a Callista.
Yeah.
Like I high rolled a Callista on 3-1, and I had already slammed Rageblade on her.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going Callista, I would argue was there probably do you remember what your other 2 augments were?
Complete, like unplayable. It was probably the worst 6 augments I had ever seen in my life. Like Chrono, I don't remember what they were, but I do remember they were like when Meta TFT was telling me it was like 5.0, 4.99, like some terrible stats.
Yeah, so that's obviously rough. The one thing I wanted to kind of call out in this specific scenario, even forgetting about the augments for a sec, like this actually happens. There was a game that happened to me yesterday or the day before, where I was 3-way contested Callista. So you were 3-way contested here. Plus, there's also someone else holding Callistas, or not Callistas, Rakan. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Rakan players, right? And similar to Rise, Callista, arguably, in many situations on my stage 4 roll down, I would prefer to hit a Rakan 2 over a Callista 2 just because you get that scaling, right? And the scaling is more important because if you don't have the front line, your Callista is not going to be able to scale. And
I also just feel like Rakan is such a heavily contested unit that like you just need to hit that because if you don't, you never will.
Yeah. So there was a game I played recently where I was 3-way contested Callista, and there were other people similar to this in the lobby playing Rakan who were not playing Callista. And on my roll down, I hit 0 Rakans, but I did hit a Callista 2. And instead of playing Rakan, I was just playing a Nico 2 with a Nasus. And so my Nico 2 was just holding my Rakan items. And because there were so many Rakans in the lobby and 2 other Callista players, the other Callista players were not able to hit their Rakan 2s. And my Nico 2, even though I was playing 3 fairy, because I hit my Callista 2 and I just had a Nico 2, I was able to beat the other 2 Callista players until they got knocked out. And then after that, I was able to hit my Rakan and then eventually hit the Rakan 2. I think I got like 4th that game, but given the circumstances, like I was just happy I wasn't like 8th. So that's like another example where sometimes if you're hard focused on just getting your core units, it can be hard to play the game and like stabilize in stage 4. But if you just think about like, I just need what Appy's always kind of tried to hammer home with me is what is your win condition for your team? How does your team go about winning? And if you're playing a scaling comp like Callista or a comp like Scholars where you just need time for your carries to be able to deal damage or hand out items for Milio, the most important thing in that situation is to have a solid frontline. And ideally, you would have your perfect frontliner, but in the worst case, a 2-star random tank who's a 3 cost or a 4 cost is going to be better than whatever you were playing in stage 3, right?
Yeah, and that just goes back to the same thing I was saying too. Is I do feel like that's my biggest weakness. That's like bleeding out on me. Is like I'll just get so tunnel vision on like committing to playing this that like I'm pretty sure if I took a second, and I took a step back and I scouted the lobby better and was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, it looks like 3 or 4 other people are going to play Rakan in this lobby. Maybe I should have a backup plan on my great roll down.
Mm-hmm.
But as you can see, like I rolled down so much gold that game too. I even hit a Milo too.
Yeah.
I just hit nothing, and I got like kind of tilted, but yeah, I'm pretty sure the reason why I got tilted because I wasn't hitting, but it's like one of those moments where like you didn't save anything, so I just had nothing, and I was like, okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But
the other thing
I'm pretty sure if I took Nasus and Nico, I'm pretty sure there's no one in the lobby that even has those units. So
yeah,
I'm pretty sure I saw 19 of them.
Other suggestion here is if you have Spellblades and Rageblade, what other 4-cost carry could you play with Rageblade that might be better with Spellblades?
Oh yeah, Rise. Yeah, for sure. But the thing is that like I had already hit a Callista on 3-1, so I just felt like I was supposed to stay there. So I had already slammed a Rageblade and the Redemption.
So I mean, those are fine. Like I know we just talked about how Rageblade isn't ideal on Rise.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have Spellblades then, like, and the other thing is that nobody here is playing Rise.
And I think I just felt into like
you're going to have your Rakan contested. So this would be a perfect scenario to like consider the Rise Arcana angle. That there are 2 players here playing TK, but that's still better than
it's way better than what I was doing there. Yeah. But that goes back to also like stat biasness that I have as well, where it's like I saw Spellblaze and I saw it was still an augment that performed at like a 4.8. So I just felt like it was negligible, Like in my head I was like I was probably thinking, I can't really remember, but I was probably thinking like, oh hey, even if I do play Rise, that doesn't do anything for me because this augment I took is so underperforming that my chances are probably still higher if I play Callista. That's probably what I unconsciously defaulted to. Just like looking at stats face value.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. And that's where I've had multiple different top challenger coaches suggest to me to turn off stats for like a day and then just see how my gameplay shifts, which sometimes I'll be taking suboptimal augments, but I can then be a little bit more flexible in my decision making and also have more time on my roll downs. That was actually a big leak I had. I was spending so much time looking at stats on 4-2 augment selection or at 2-1 that I wouldn't even have time to do a roll down. But that's where I would even say for this game, the augment actually and the item matter less than the fact that you're 3-way contested Callista plus like there's 5 players in the lobby angling Rakan.
Dude, I just wish Milo was a better unit. He's such a good unit, don't get me wrong. Like, if you have a decent board, he's broken. I think that game I was just praying he just one-shot the enemy board for me.
Yeah, the other thing is there's no Tarex players, right? So on that roll down, I would have been surprised if you didn't find Tarek Rise.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Again, I just feel like I'm just tunneling so hard. I feel like I shifted because the way I started out before I started taking any coaching was I would try to adapt that play as flexible as possible line where I'm literally just playing towards like whatever the game is giving me versus now like taking a lot of time and playing a lot more to kind of forcing the game to go the way I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
to where now it's like I just felt like I'm just a person where I just go to the extremes of either side, and now I'm just in the extreme of forcing, what I want to play, and I'm just not being a little bit flexible, and it's like
Yeah.
bleeding into my games.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I think it comes with a lot more practice, and this is one of the most complicated like things to learn in TFT. So it's definitely something we can improve on.
And
One
that
other
game
thing,
was fun. I actually hit a game where I hit the Callista 3 into the polymorph charm to hit the 3-star 5 cost. That guy I was playing against, I think, is like a little more down. That one right there, where I got first. That guy
oh
was so mad. He was supposed to win that game.
yeah,
No, he had sold his board. He was like level 10, like 6 Scholar,
yeah,
like Morgana 2, everything 2. Like his board was crazy strong. He had like the augment for it as well, I believe. Combat Caster, and
yeah.
I just got bailed out. Like his board was beating my Callista 3.
That's crazy.
That's how good his board was.
Cool. So I wanted to one other area that you can use to help you kind of determine macro level.
Yeah, there you go. Execution D. I'm surprised it's not F.
On how often you should be going 9 is looking at this average level here and your average star level and your average team cost, and then comparing that with other top players. So
Okay.
how do I share this so that I could just
See, I have a lot of respect for that. This thing is very true. Augments, I'd give it D, and execution is probably an F. Is this super accurate, or is it like just a general?
I think it's just like useful at a high level to like look
God.
at your patterns. So hold on, let me try to share this so I could just share the window instead of the tab. Okay, here we go. All right, now it's flipping. All right, so let's just look at your average level, star level, and team cost compared to like some of these other top players. So you're at 8.8 average level, Milk's 8.6. I'm gonna just do Greya, like, okay, Asian, Weijin, and Dish Soap. All right, Dish Soap 8.5, Weijin 8.7, 8.6, 8.6, and you're at 8.8. So what that indicates to me is that you might be trying to go 9 too often and are likely bleeding out in stage 4 because you're not strong enough, especially if, let's look at your average star level, 1.7, 1.8, 1.8, 1.9, and 1.8. So that to me indicates that you are probably going 9 without stabilizing your 4 cost board enough. And then your average team costs 74, 76. Oh, interesting. Greya 71. I think that might be because he does more reroll.
More reroll comes.
78. Oh, interesting. Dish Soap 73. Okay, so I mean, I think
what I really think it is I think my augments, like I said, like I feel like my execution and my augments are what are like negatively impacting me the most, and not how I'm playing the game out, because I feel like I'm still committing into doing the things I need to do, which is like looking at going 9, like like understanding how to level to 9. Because before I even like started working with you, 9 was like a realm that I never entered. Do you get what I mean? Like 9 was a realm that like I never knew existed. Like it was a thing where I would always be like, how in the world are people affording to go to level 9?
Yeah, so you could see that in your old stats, right? Before you started this account.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like 8.4 versus 8.8. So you're going 9 way more often now.
Yeah. And so like I understand like the realm of it and like how I'm supposed to go about doing it. It's that I just do feel like that on my roll downs I am not being as optimal as I can be. What I think I need to do is like I do need to record like 10 games and just snippet out my roll downs.
Yeah.
And just like compile them into one file that I can go through them with you. That's what I will need to do for next time.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, because I think that's where it's most apparent to me. Like like the flaws that I'm able to see for myself at the moment, where I'm like, oh wow.
So
Like I'm pretty sure if I like committed more, like I know I can climb right now. Like
Mhm.
I'm very confident I can climb into like a good 200 LP, but it's like I'm just trying to force myself into playing into these correct ways
Mhm.
where I'm being as flexible as I can be. Because I found
So
a lot of success just like open forting, just playing Callista every game possible.
yes, which will work at lower elos. I think the hard part is, you were sharing with me that you wanted your goal to be to hit GM.
Exactly. And then I
And
had to stop doing that, and I said,
yeah.
"Yo, I need to stop this." Because I was developing such bad habits doing it, where I just stopped paying attention to the game. Like I just start watching something. I would just start watching something on YouTube, and I'd
Mhm.
be like, "Okay, it's stage 3. Let me just look a little bit," and then I would just come back at stage 4. It was so bad. I was
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, I can't do this." So I started playing like better ways, but now I'm learning like, okay, hey, rolling down, executing on these, I'm not doing it right. Even
Mhm.
my augment selection is like it's too biased to stats right now. Where I'm probably gonna have to do what you said. I'm just gonna have to take off meta TFT and just play some games without looking at stats.
Mhm.
And that
And
happened to me a lot of times too, where you said like I'll look at these stats and I'll spend too long. I'll spend 25 seconds looking at them.
yeah,
It's too much time.
which I think stats are great, and I love looking at stats. Is when you become too over reliant on them, and then you're just taking too much time, it can cripple you. So what you can do is turn it off, but then look at the stats after the game to see
Oh yeah,
what alternate decisions you could have made. Right.
yeah. I'm not saying like I just don't think I'm playing at like I think I'm lacking in too many areas to where like stats are like my biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's taking away like decent time. What's the term? Those seconds you save like during a game, actions per minute.
Oh yeah, APM.
Yeah, I think it's taking away a lot of APM from me.
Yeah. Yeah. So another suggestion I could have is so getting those VODs on stage 4 would be great. Another suggestion, if you have the motivation to, would be I assume you might have seen some of my videos where I do like stage 2 and I'm predicting fights, pausing before the fight and then
Yeah,
predict.
that's one thing I've done. I do every week now.
Mhm.
I go on the um the website you told me, and I just play that game where I was trying to guess fights.
Portal. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Um, so you could filter by stage so that you could just focus on stage 4, for example, if that's where you feel like you're weak. Uh, the the downside of Bortle is that you don't actually get to watch the fight, and so therefore you might not always understand why
Yeah,
Lord
that's
Walnut lost.
something. Sorry to cut you off, but no, like you're so right about that because one thing where I did what you said, where I'll open past streams and take my time and watch the stage 4 fights and how it goes.
Mhm.
Um, I've learned a lot just watching the units. Like I never really understood like how powerful Taric positioning is, for example,
Uh-huh.
until like I really started watching fights and I was like, oh wow, yeah, this unit is actually like super OP. Um,
Yeah.
if you position him right.
Yeah, so that's and then also Meta TFT's Bortle doesn't account for mid-fight item slam, so that's
Oh
why
yeah,
sometimes you'll have like some random board that for sure should lose end up winning.
every
Um,
time this happened to me, it'll tell me like I have a 95% chance to win this. And I'm like, nice, and I'll just get smoked, and I'll be like, okay, man,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But they
So
slam items like at the beginning of the fight, so it doesn't account for that, right?
right, exactly. Um, so another suggestion would be to, if you have your own game VODs, you could just go through stage 4 yourself and pause, kind of like how I did for stage 2.
Uh huh.
Um, and predict the fight, like predict whether you're going to win or lose, and then also by how many units, since that's relevant for your original question that you posed on how stable you are and should I greed to be able to go 9, right? Being able to both predict the fight and how many units you might lose by. Like if you're going to predict that I might only lose by 1 or 2 units, that's only like a 9 or 10 HP loss, as opposed to I'm going to lose by 6 units, which could be like 16 or sorry, 8 plus like 6,
It's one
14.
per, right?
Yeah, it's 1 per, and it's 8 damage for the stage. So, if you're trying to sack the, let's say 4-5 and 4-6, like if you're gonna lose by 15 HP each, that's 30 HP as opposed to like maybe you lose one fight by 2 units and you win one fight, right? Like that's gonna be like a 20 plus HP difference right there. And if you only have 30 or 40 HP left, that's the difference between 1 life versus maybe 3 lives.
I guess there's another thing I want to ask you too, right? Um, let's say I am opting to go for like the full loss streak, as long as I can, into stage 3. So it's stage 3. I already picked my augment on 3-2. I have 6 loss, right? I might as well like continue. It's 3 gold. At what point is it alarming to how many units I'm losing by?
For the most part, I would never intentionally continue to lose in stage like past like 3-2 unless I'm playing like Fortune. I would just start trying to kill units because odds are, even if you are able to get more gold, that gold is not worth the HP loss.
Okay. Yeah, just because sometimes like I will go into stage 3 thinking like I'll take like explosive growth for example, and I'll be like, okay, I'll just commit to losing here, and then on Raptors, I'll be like level 8 with like 80, 90 gold, and I'm like, okay, I can just roll down and hit everything. But sometimes, what you said happens is like you'll just play against that one guy that hit like a Morgana 2 with Rakan, and he just gonna like steamroll you. And that's when it started hitting me, and I was like, okay, if I do opt to go that way, right, how much gold should I be investing in my board to, minimize my losses? Or is it one of those things where you just fully commit to it, don't invest a single drop of gold, and it is what it is?
Yeah, so in stage 3, I wouldn't necessarily roll if your goal is to get to level 8, but I wouldn't be intentionally trying to lose. So I would be trying to play the strongest board that I can with what I have, which means slamming items, which means playing strong units as opposed to intentionally playing bad units.
Yeah.
It means trying to. So another really important thing if you're playing Lost Streak more often is figuring out which units are better at killing units. So, for example, mages have a lot of single target burst, or at least like Soraka, let's say. Soraka 2 can be quite good to just kill units, or like a Zoe 2 has a lot of single target. Whereas if you're playing a Seraphine without items, like she'll just AoE a bunch of units and everyone's kind of like at half HP at the end of the fight and you killed nobody.
Yeah, it was just doing random stuff. Because that game I played, the Rise one, my last one, I'm pretty sure that was what I did. I took training dummy into explosive growth, and I knew I was going to be contested Rise, but I knew I would be able to roll so much earlier than everyone trying to play Rise that I could probably grief them by just taking their units and holding them, where I'll be able to, win out. And I mean that game is what I told you. Like I just ended up playing like some. I lost to the guy that got first. I ended up playing him because his board was too good, man. He had like 7 out of it. Like his board was too crazy. I was like, yeah, nah, this was definitely not the way to go about this.
Because if you had just preserved more HP in stage earlier,
but that was the game I didn't slam any items too. Like I told you, that my ideology was like saving the items as long as I can to play maybe a different comp, because I wasn't locked into anything from my augments. But I got punished because of doing something like that.
So that's the situation where the moment you have 2 econ augments here, you're going to get first dibs on whatever units you want. At that point, I would just be slamming items to preserve HP. Because like you said, all it takes is for you to face this high roller, and if you have 2 lives left, all it takes is 2 rounds against this player and you're dead. So in this situation,
him and the person in second place too. I never understood how broken Suspicious Trenchcoat is on the Fiora. That's like crazy.
Oh yeah. Just you have enough times where you have 3 Fioras taking down your carry line, and it feels painful.
It's so depressing. But yeah, that's good. But now I know, like, I need to fix that part. At least I know, like, that's what I'm doing wrong. But yeah, now I know.
Okay. Let's see. Did you want to go into that Soju VOD, or we can talk more high level questions?
Yeah, I actually had three more um
Okay.
questions. So now that we talked about slamming when I need to, so 3-2, right? I know like a lot of games you see me play, and I'm doing this a lot. Is like I feel like maybe I'm greeting for double econ too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I hear from other streamers that greeting for two econ is not bad if you're going for like a really strong level 8 board such as Rise or Callista, right? Um, how true is that?
So part of it depends on how contested you are. If you're heavily contested and you are, I kind of like what you're saying here. You have two other Rise players. Getting first dibs on that Rise 2 makes a pretty big difference. The problem is that even after you hit it, once other people hit, you are now down to augments. And so your cap is actually not that high unless you can hit and still have enough money to go 9 and stay ahead of tempo. Like your advantage needs to be translated into a strong board at the same level, but then once other people catch up, you need to be at the next highest level with an additional reason that your board is stronger than theirs. So if you're not able to translate that gold advantage into a stronger board, which usually means first off 2 stars, but then next means once your opponents have hit the same kind of tier board strength, like you are one level higher than them and are accessing the 5 costs earlier than them. If you're not able to translate that double econ advantage into that board advantage, then you're gonna start feeling the pain when your opponents with less econ but with stronger combat augments have caught up to your board strength, and then at that point they could just beat you because they have the combat augment advantage.
So therefore, that like going for two gold augments, it's not incorrect if your execution is like proper.
Yeah, and oftentimes 2 econ augments can lead into a fast 9 strategy, so that's where this smolder board,
Yeah.
you can go with a fast 9 strategy. If there was a Marcel game that I had VOD reviewed recently where he went fast 9 Zerath. And that's also a situation where he was actually contested two-way by 2 other Rise players, I want to say. And he had already slammed Archangel. And so he was like, I could do a roll down on 8, but like I think someone else had already hit a 2-star Rise. Or he could just greed and go fast 9. And that's kind of the route he took. But you can really only often do that often with a combination of high econ and win streaking. Though the easier way to go fast 9 is to just be at high HP in stage 4, and so then you're giving up your HP in stage 4 to be able to go 9, as opposed to
70 above HP.
Yeah, if you're trying to go fast 9 with low HP, usually what's going to happen is you're going to lose to like these boards and then just get knocked out.
So, okay, so like understanding that, 2 gold augments, it might not be incorrect. When I'm tailoring for my augments, right? Could you explain to me a little more? Because this is a term I've been hearing more. Like this is the first cup that I watched. I really, really, really watched. And I do hear them like, hey, he's playing these units to tailor for this, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
So
I understand what it means, but but by playing like 3 fairies on Krugs, right? Does that increases my odds of getting a fairy type augment?
Yes. So
and do we know the stats of it increasing?
It's not on Krugs. It's on the round before augment selection, so it'd be on 3-1.
3-1. Yeah.
The traits that you have active on your board can appear in your augments, or I actually don't know the exact stats. I think they appear with higher likelihood, or maybe there's I want to say actually that if you don't have traits active, it would not give you those trait augments. So like if you're angling Callista, like let's say that game that you had that one Callista on 3-1, but if you didn't have 3 Fairy,
Yeah.
I don't think it would offer you Royal Guard or Fairy Crest as augment options on 3-2 if it's gold.
Okay, so if I want to play Rise, for example, and I have 2 Scholars in, I'm more likely to see a Scholar type art.
That at least becomes a possibility.
Possibility.
Whereas
Yeah.
if you don't have Scholar in, I don't think it would actually give that possibility to you.
So I wouldn't be able to pretty much see it, is what you're saying?
Yes. Which is why I actually had a coaching session where I was playing Rise and I didn't have
Scholar.
Portal or Scholar in, which is why usually if you want to play towards Rise, your highest cap option would be to already be playing Portal Scholar around Zoe, because that way you have the upside of getting either Portal or Scholar emblems, because those both have much higher caps.
And playing on early game, like before 2-1, if I play those, would that also tailor me for
I don't
my
believe
2-1
that.
control?
I don't believe 2-1 does tailor, but I am not 100% positive about that. I want to say I'm like 80% confident in that.
Yeah, because some games, like I do have like 2 different types of owners to play. Like sometimes you get Hunter, Vanguard.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hit like the Zoe, Poppy, Bastion board. So I didn't know if that like mattered. If
I'm pretty sure that 2-1 it does not tailor, and then 3-2 and 4-2 do tailor.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I was not doing that.
Yeah, so sometimes there will be situations where people will intentionally put weaker board on 3-1 or 4-1 to try to get the higher cap for what they're trying to play toward.
Yeah, I've never done that, but now I will. Now I know that. And then the last one is learning to spell.
Mm-hmm.
If I see that, is that an auto take no matter what?
So learning to spell definitely has great stats. The thing with learning to spell is you need to get takedowns to gain the ability power, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a scaling augment over the course of the game, similar to like Warwick in this set. What else is permanent scaling? Syndra. Any of these permanent scaling augments, or even like big gains, or what's the shapeshifter one? Eternal growth. All of these augments that have permanent scaling, you really want to be strong early. If you are not strong early, it's much harder to play. Which is not to say that you have to be strong early, but it just becomes much harder to like. You need to basically hit something by, I would say 3-2 if you're not playing around 1 cost, for this to work. So like,
I think what I meant was like, okay, let's say like learning to spell came up on my screen, right? I have no mages.
The only situation then I would even remotely consider it is I have like perfect AP items. I have like at least a tier.
Okay.
And I would really hope that there's no mage players. At least that gives me mage outs. Or more, the other option is like Hui. I would say Hui reroll. I would tend to avoid leaning this towards 4 costs. Like if we could filter 4 costs here. But yeah, like they're generally not good.
Yeah, Nami's just played on that board anyway.
Yeah, so it's pretty much all mages. I want to say Hui should be here somewhere. Yeah, even Hui's not great. So like I might consider Hui if I have a Hui like out of the orb, right? And I have like a tier rod. But for the most part, this is like mage angle, and even if you have this and you're like 3-way contested mage, it still might not be that good.
Okay, so it's not an auto take.
I would not say it is an auto take. It's often take, but still lobby dependent. And this is where when we start relying too much on the stats, it can send you in very difficult situations where if, for example, you filtered learning to spell with no mage, like it's 4.78.
Yeah.
Right? And if you were to somehow be able to get the stats on this, where you have learning to spell with mage, but there's 3 mage players, my guess is this averages under 4.5 as well.
Yeah, and you see that's the beauty of it too, right? Like even me, for example, I've played a couple of games, taking this augment. I even hit the board. Like I'll hit Soraka 3, and it wouldn't translate into a top 4, and that's when it made me kind of realize, like, oh wow, there's still a decent amount of conditions that I still need to fulfill regardless.
Yeah.
That the stats are definitely, like, I'm relying too much on the stats of whatever I pick, and I'm not really playing it with an aim, but more of I'm just playing it and trying to fit it. Like I'm trying to play towards that. I'm not letting that augment play towards what I already have.
Yeah. And a big part of it is understanding how this helps your team win. And the really big thing here with this or any permanent scaling augment or unit is you have to stay ahead of tempo of lobby. Because the moment you fall behind the lobby tempo, you stop being able to kill units, which means you stop being able to scale, which means you're just going to die.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Like having a Soraka with a Shojin early game, you probably won't win, but it'll definitely, like, farm you some good AP, some good health.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I understand better now. But precise planning, I'm always taking, right?
Yeah, I mean, Econ just gives you more flexibility as a resource to be able to go into a lot of stuff, right? So that's less conditional.
Another thing is stationary support. Like I'll have like these types of augments like thrown in my face all the time. Like I'll have stationary support, precise planning, like branching out, for example, as well. And even at stage 2-1, where I don't really have like a clear direction, I do find myself like a bit confused on like what am I supposed to do here? Because stationary support is still like an investment augment, right? Like it's still something you'll most likely lose streak with. Like repeat later. Precise planning will give you more econ early game. Branching out gives you like more direction. But then I find myself wondering, like, what am I supposed to be taking here? What am I supposed to be doing? Even though they're all good.
Yeah. So when you think about 2-1, really the first question I'm asking myself at augment selection is, can I streak stage 2? Like, what are my odds of being able to 5 streak? And or at least give myself an opportunity to 5 streak. Like, for example, if I have a bunch of pairs and I'm not able to 5 streak right now, but if I somehow high roll, the first round against like someone that's open fording, I beat like someone that's just like weak
Yeah, you
board
just
on.
beat 3 people that are just supposed to. Like, that happens too. You're not wrong. Like, you'll play weak board on like stage 2 and you'll win the first 3 because you just play against 3 people that are just like looking to lose streak.
Exactly. And then after a few rounds, I hit like a bunch of my pairs. Then at that point, I can actually legit contend to like actually streak, right? So part of it is what are my odds to be able to put together a board where I can contend to be the high roll streaker in the lobby? If my odds for that are good, then I will lean towards taking an augment that can take advantage of that, which means I would take something like Band of Thieves. I would take something like Iron Assets to be able to have 2 slammable items right off on a 2-star, right? That gives me a much higher chance of streaking. I might pick Keepers if I have like 4 strong units that I can put in, or Exiles if I have strong tanks. On the other hand, if I have a board and part of this is not just your board, it also depends on scouting the lobby, right? Which is also why at 1-4, I'm actively scouting the lobby to see what 2-stars or pairs opponents have, and whether or not they have items that can be slammed on those units.
Yeah.
And if I feel like I am in the top half of the lobby and being able to play for streak, I'm leaning towards augments that have current combat power. If I don't think I'm in the top half of the lobby, then I'm more likely. So Spoils of War is also in the top half of the lobby kind of market.
Yeah. for sure.
If I think I'm in the bottom half of the lobby argument, then I would be more likely to take stationary support. Precise planning can go for either way, which is why it's great all around. Let's see. Good for something is good for that. Good for something is more like if you have carry items, because you don't want to have great tank items. Like stone plate would be like the worst thing you could slam with this. What else?
And I think that's more of like what I was trying to say too. It's like I understand now what spawn I'm in, right? Like I know I'm going to be in the bot 4 for one for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So stationary support is a bot 4 type of augment.
Yeah,
precise planning is more of like half and half, and then something like branching out is also half and half, right? You could just take it to tailor yourself for the future, or you could just take it in high roll.
I would say branching out in like 90% of scenarios is going to be a later game augment.
Later, right? So
yeah,
exactly.
So if I'm not trying to play towards streak.
If you're not trying to play towards streak, right? So when I have like all of these 3 good options in front of me, how do I know for myself which one I should be leaning towards?
So let's say just between like these top 4 options.
Yeah, because sometimes like you'll get 2 options of those, like you'll get stationary support and you'll get precise planning, and then I'm just like always thinking like, okay, which one am I supposed to be going for here?
So between these two, if I'm in the top 4 of the lobby in board strength, I would take precise planning just because I can win and gain value from this.
Yeah.
And also that extra gold you could use to push levels if you're playing against another person that's trying to streak. Although you would only really want to do that if there's no one open fording, because you don't want to win by like 5 units.
Yeah.
If you are trying to lose streak, then between these two, I would take stationary support. Although you could take this with loose streaking too, for sure.
That's like a problem I feel like I have too. It's like I'll like delve into the stats too much, and I'll have like decent options in front of me, but then I just don't know myself. Like, okay, what am I supposed to take here? What's the most optimal thing to take here?
Yeah, so that's where I think the whole idea of do you want an augment that is strong now or later is just a useful, simple heuristic, because most of these you can split between that. The other thing you can think about is depending on your items, like what direction that leans you toward. So, for example, component buffet is great on like Jinx, because you just need really specific items, right? Or even Callista. Yeah. So if you already have like a cloak, bow, rod, like you could just take this and angle towards that direction. Yeah, I mean, in general, like you could basically say this is delayed power. This could be strong right now.
Yeah, I see a lot of people taking that, regardless if they're win or losing.
Yeah, this is just overall like solid tempo play with high roll capability. If you get like Shyvana, for example.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, I mean AFK delayed. This is current power, delayed power, right? You could basically just bucket all of these into current power or delayed power, like from a stage 2 analysis standpoint.
So okay, I understand now. So if I am opting to full lose streak and I will lose or whatnot, then stationary support is most likely my better choice, because that is full commit delayed, while precise planning in itself is like half and half. But yeah, I do understand what you mean, though.
I mean, between these two, like the stats are so close. Like it can also just be your preference, right? If you like having more gold, like that's great. The thing with delayed combat power is that for example, like that game where I was describing, where I was playing 3-way contest Callista. If you know you are going to end up in a situation where you're contested, which ideally you're not, but if you are, then if someone else has more gold than you, but they miss and you're on the same star level, then you can stabilize much easier with better combat, right?
Yeah.
So, and this goes back to your question earlier where you pick 2 econ augments. Well, if you take 2 econ augments, you absolutely have to hit or you're completely screwed to the players with combat.
I feel like that's like too punishing too. That's why like I was like trying to ask you for like clarity on it too. Is like am I just like setting myself up for failure? Not for failure, but am I increasing my odds of failure?
Oh yeah, I mean that's two
And
econ augments is
is
much
that
more of like a first or eighth strategy.
and yeah, that's incorrect.
I don't know that it's necessarily incorrect. It depends what you're like. For example, if you're trying to make a snapshot for tournament qualification, or you're playing in a tournament and you're on the bubble of being able to hit the next cutoff, like first or eighth is great. Whereas if you're just trying to climb consistently with having a high AVP, then maybe first or eighth isn't as great, right? So it depends what you're trying to solve for.
Okay. So just stop doing that.
And if that's how you have fun playing the game, that could be the thing too. It just depends what you're trying to solve for, right?
Yeah, I just feel like I'm developing good habits, but at the same time, I think my bad ones are still creeping up on me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a learning process.
Yeah.
But I'm not like too pressed for it. So I'm just playing to play, and learning.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming up on time here. I do want to, like, at the end of each session, kind of go over what you thought and this is what I also do in my executive coaching practice. I found it useful to, like, kind of be able to talk about what you learned, what your takeaways are from the session, kind of what you want to focus on in between sessions. Since if we just talk about this stuff and it just kind of goes in one ear out the other and you don't really apply it between sessions, it's far less effective.
Yeah, 100%. No, I do see that. Like, I am. How do I put in words? Like, I am taking everything that I'm learning from here, and I'm every week. That's the sole thing I'm focusing on. Because that's the best way for me to get better. It's just because TFT is just such a broad game, so I just feel like you just have to take one piece, work on it as much as you can. Just do your best to ignore all the other things you're bad at. Get better at that one thing, and then move on to another thing. Because I feel like if I'm just focusing on like improving like 19 things, I'm just gonna get too dizzy and too confused, and
Exactly.
I'm just gonna like my effort is gonna be too well rounded, and I'll probably just get better results if I just focus on working on this one specific thing. So that's why
one specific thing you want to work on
right now, I feel like I need to work on my transitioning and my execution. Because last time it was going away from that free flex play into more of playing something, uncontested will give you results, which is why like I tailor myself more into playing Rise or Callista. And then, there's some games where like, the augments will give you like Wukong Jinx, right? Like the one game I played, I hit the Runon's augment. I already had a Jinx, Bow, Rod, free game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the games that you get for free, you'll play for free. But like I found myself like having more success when I like tailored the comps I wanted to play throughout the entire game. So like I'll play Callista, lose streak, go for Bow, etc. Mm-hmm. But then now I found that when I'm trying to execute these, I found a flaw in my roll downs. I'm getting too narrow-minded. I'm tunneling on it, not picking up good units, and just not executing pretty much. Mm-hmm. I feel like now I need to work on that part. And then, when I perfect that part a little better or whatnot, then I'll have to sit back, analyze my games more, and be like, okay, hey, I find myself doing this bad. And that's like one thing I'm really glad to do too is I'm able to identify like, hey, I'm doing this wrong, and I know I'm doing this completely wrong. Because I feel like when you're playing TFT and you're aware that you're playing, your flaws should stand out to you if you're not being biased towards them.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So what's a question that you can pose to yourself in stage 4 to be able to better improve on your transitions and executions?
I think that the way for me to answer that question I do need to like record those roll downs. Mm-hmm. And then I need to really see how fast am I going? How am I planning out my team planner to hold specific units for whatever comp I'm trying to go to? Meaning that like it's possible to do it in a Callista board, for example, because you're most likely going to have Seraphine, Lilia, Tristana, Katarina already going into stage 4. So there is a lot more room in my my planner to add in like Nico, Nasus, for example. So I shouldn't see any excuse in when I'm rolling down to miss those units. I think the first step is me planning ahead, saying like, okay, I should pick these up, pick these up, pick these up, throw them in there when I'm rolling down, like really test my APM and, try to execute on it as fast as possible.
Okay. Sounds good.
I think only a practice, is going to improve that part.
Yeah. All right. So then, let's see. Do you want to schedule another session, or
Yeah, for sure. I think next week is fine. I think for like the smaller things like this, I should be able to. Like, I do have a lot more free time now from work, so I should be able to have time to grind out even more games.
All right.
The only thing that I think I'm having a problem with is like I'm starting to feel like the journey is becoming more forced on myself versus something of enjoyment, and I think I need to like really like outweigh the negatives and positives to be like this is a learning skill I'm going to develop for myself in order to enjoy the game later on.
Yeah.
So like even at like 1 a.m. when I'm like super tired, I still need to focus and be like, hey, let's put in a little time, it'll pay off for you in the future.
Yeah,
because I'm like really grinding the games out, like because I get super tired after like looking after the kids and like finishing work and everything. So like it does like become like a second job in a way, but in a way I also remind myself, it's effort is what will get you there.
Yeah, I feel you. That's also where hopefully if you run some of these exercises, you ideally can see results in the games quicker, which makes it more motivating, because doing the hard work without the results can definitely be draining. So it's like kind of finding that right balance.
Yeah, and that's why I also like kind of forfeited this patch, like this like set. I kind of like blind out the whole LP thing in my mind, or I'm like, I don't really care about LP anymore. I'll worry about that next set or whenever there's a reset. But for now, I just focus on my mechanics and focus on learning how to play the game efficiently and properly, and then next set, I shouldn't have any excuse to not do what I want to do.
Cool. And one other suggestion, I know we've been talking a lot of theory the last 2 sessions, and I'm happy to continue to if this is like kind of the approach to coaching you prefer, like totally down. I would maybe suggest that we could also experiment with doing a VOD review at some point, since that can
you're right.
Do application a lot of the theory that we're talking about.
Yeah, no, you're right. I do think like the VOD review, like there's no more reasons to not do a VOD review, if that makes sense, because my excuse before was, hey, I don't know how to tailor my game or play my game properly, versus now I feel confident enough to like I have enough information to play stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and even like stage 5, understanding like how to go 9, when to go 9, what do I need to go to level 9, so that now I know that I just wanted to make sure that whatever games I play, the fundamental mistakes aren't like so glaring, where it's like, well, like, hey, you kind of threw your whole game away because on stage 2-1 you leveled to 4,
right?
For example, because that happened to me. That was like a mistake I had before that you told me. I was like, why are you leveling on 2-1?
Yeah, and that goes back to the whole: are you playing for? Do you think you're top 4 in the lobby strength or bot 4 in the lobby strength? And if you're in the bot 4 in the lobby strength, you should be picking augments that are delayed power. You should not be leveling, etc. Like it all ties with kind of the overarching game plan, as opposed to kind of blindly doing things, looking at stats without considering these other factors, etc.
And it's like going back to that. That's like even like the whole like talking throughout it and like understanding that like lose streak isn't what it used to be, or win streaking. That like losing 3, winning 2 is essentially the same as like 5 losing. So that kind of like changed my mentality on it, because like I enjoy the lose streaking more because I know I'm not going to face some kind of like crazy high roller on like 2-2 with like some crazy board, because that's happened to me before. Like I'll level, I'll be like, yeah, my board is strong, I can do this, and then I'll play someone on 2-2 with like Outlick, like at least 2, Jace 2, Ash 2. I'm serious, like a Syndra, and I'm just like, okay, I guess I just like get smoked there.
Yeah.
So I do opt in to losing the first 3 and then trying to win the next 2 versus like ever just trying to win 5 straight,
Right.
which has led to way better results too.
All right. I got to run now, but
Yeah, I appreciate
hopefully
it.
this was helpful, and I will see you next week at the same time then.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep. All right. Talk to you later.